Hello there, viewers of High Television. It's a Tuesday's edition of the program Press Brief. This Tuesday, the 21st of November 2023. And on this program, the newspapers always come first. We'll be back to give you what they are saying this fine Tuesday, a sunny one, of course. Once more, you're heartily welcome on board. If you are just joining us, the program on air is Press Brief for presentation. I am a Tinganing Larry Kevin Tabot. We start off with this publication from Limbe, the Sun newspaper of Nobedwaso. For this morning, have as lead story, cholera still a major threat in Southwest. That is what you can find on that said paper, revealed by UN body reports that says 142 cases in recent months across the region. And we remain in the Southwest region. This time around, Southwest launches Fabric Eyasu. And moving over to the University of Bamenda, it says University of Bamenda strikes CFA France 100 million deal with Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Social Economy and Handicraft. And we'll move now to talk something else this time around with this other story that talks of SDO convenes Manyemen chieftaincy consultative talks in Bangam. And on the third page, the paper reports on former Limbe 2 Mayor Duncan Molindo bows out. Get to read that story and others on the pages of the Sun newspaper for this morning. From the Sun, we move over to the next publication. We take you now to the next publication for today. That is The Nation. The Nation says Tinubu to Simen speeds up investment in Power Rail. Get to read the story on that said paper from Nigeria. And presidency tackles Atiku over claims on court's verdict regarding the legitimacy of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Retirement directives unsettles as adamant police officers. You won't find that story on page 25 of The Nation for today. In that said, The Nation, it says impeachment. Appeal court rejects Ondo Assembly for fast track request. You can find that story on The Nation for today. We'll move now to the Punch Sports Extra. Punch Sports Extra says, I'm going anywhere. I'm going nowhere. Sorry, that is what Pizarro insists. He is not ready to join Egyptian giants Zamalek amidst reports talks between both parties. And in this set paper of the sports paper, a report on Oshoba headlines November 25 title about. And moving over to South Africa, coach laments poor Rwanda pitch. You can find that story on that set paper regarding the build-up to the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. And Campbell wants Arsenal to sign Victor Osimhen. You can find that story on that Punch Sports Extra for today. And we now take you to the Punch paper. The Punch talks of reps prop into 447 billion naira COVID-19 spending, summon 83 MDAS. And we take you to Tinubu's who's a G20 investors FARC meet over multiple taxation. And Osun, it says CJ Court workers protest assembly listens. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. Obasiki's deputy joins governor's raise plans campaign. You get to read details on page 7 on that said paper. We'll take you back to Cameroon with Echo du Parlement for today. Talks of the November session of Parliament. According to Echo du Parlement, it says National Assembly adopts the law for 2022. You can get to read that story on that set paper for today. The Guardian Post, another publication from Yaoundé, says 2025 presidentials, that is Jean-Michel Nyenche Crusade's come-to-let coalition to challenge Biya. And in that said paper, Kenya, Professor Kelly Moore orders brainstorm on strengthening debt resilience in the continent of Africa. FACOM, he says Gema partners review secondary cities program for development. At audience with the Prime Minister, head of government, visiting World Bank Vice President for Central and West Africa, says pledges fresh support for government and developmental goals across the country, Cameroon. FIFA World Cup qualifiers for 2026 for 2016 for 2016 for 2026. I beg your pardon. The paper talks of Cameroon Libya to tussle for Group D top spots today in the city of Benghazi. The Eagles Eyes newspaper for this morning reports Honorable Inju Prudencia as Anwi Phone, and we'll move over to Honorable Njumini Let's Network host a debate forum with National Social Insurance Fund. 3 crucial bills on the table for examination on the National Assembly. Get to read that story on that set publication for today. Le Clement's report on Musa Gambo, who put his traveling bags in Yaoundé, in Douala. Get to read that story on that set paper. Paul Darcy Bia and Sebastian Abala comes out with shuttle with the French ambassador for LGBT, Jean-Marc Breton. You can find more on the pages of Climat newspaper for today. While Lucan comes back to religion or Christianity following this mega crusade that just ended in Douala with Raoul Wafo, who shines the light. Get to read that story on that set paper. Governance, the paper report on Manaona Futso, who materializes the vision of President Paul Biya. And we move over to the World Day for the Child, the International Day for the Child. It says the Commission of Human Rights in the country calls out to parents. Get to read that story on that said paper. L'Activité newspaper for today have a different banner. It says Mefu and Afamba division. The chief of the village of Kumetu Day officially installed. Get to read that story on that said paper. Let's move over to the road network linking Fo and Yaoundé. It says very soon renovation work will see the light of day. Breaking news for this morning report: 87 localities to be lit by the solar lighting system of Cameroon initiated by President Paul Biya. We'll move over to Mefu and Afamba division in the central region. It says this is where Senator Na Ondua remains lies, making paying tribute to that lawmaker of the upper house of Parliament. Telegram news for today talks of the worries of the movement for reform. You can find more on that set paper for today. Philip Kambi Akwa, ambassador for Africa when it comes to African fabric. Get to read that story on that set publication. Reality Plus of Paul for today says that is sanctuary at Etsudi, the benediction of Pope Francis to certain Christians over there in Etsudi. Get to read that story on that set paper for today. We'll move over to this festival that was championed by Bello Buba Maigari, who calls the public to put hand on decks to make sure this cultural heritage of the people of the Grand North region keeps on getting more exposure. Le Point newspaper for this morning talks of presidential elections 2025. It says maneuvers and impulsion. That's a big question that paper is preoccupied for today. Moving over to urban disorder, the paper calls out to the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestin Kecha Cortez, as it is problematic. And we take you to the chiefdom of Aqua with the King Dika Pondo Aqua on what the vision he has for his chiefdom in the first class chiefdom over there in Douala of Aqua. And still in that said paper, PCRN political party Cabral Libris outing on the presidential elections for 2025. Get to read more on that said paper for today. And we'll move over to Nouvelle Horizon for today. It talks of the public service, corruption, tribalism, nepotism, and other ills are what's that are quite visible at the public service of Cameroon. Get to read that story on Nouvelle Horizon newspaper for this morning. Electricity, the paper comes back to rural electrification process of President Paul Biya, that is getting a gaming scheme. And we'll move up now to the country with Eglise Sahel for today. It talks of some 2,813 children children lives in the Mayodani division without birth certificates. And we'll move over to the National Communication Council headed by Joseph Chibonke Kalabopse. This time around with the outing of Umaru Mongolo, who tackles Joseph Chibonke Kalabopse on his tactics as president of the Cameroon National Communication Council. In Overseas newspaper for today says His Majesty Al-Hajj Ibrahim Gad II of Bankim. He says the fourth traditional ruler of that locality is quite dynamic. Get to read more on that said paper for today. We move over to the Indomitable Lions showdown for the World Cup qualifiers for 2026 in Benghazi in Libya. As it says, showtime will be at 17 hours GMT +1. The House paper Quotidien Eco Sante for today says HIV and AIDS in the adolescent sector. It talks on the health facility of CIRBC, who launches this official project to make sure this situation of adolescents living with HIV and AIDS is being put to the abbey. Get to read more on that health paper of Quotidien Eco Sante for today. We remain with the fight against HIV and AIDS this time around with the Shantabias Foundation, who mobilizes more to help to extend hand of fellowship to persons living with HIV and AIDS. You can find more on that paper of Quotidien Eco Sante for today. We'll move next door to Tepromi Hedo. It talks of the extension of this produce or in Ebola known as G-Shets. You can find more on that said paper for today. The paper comes back to the poor road network in the locality of Bangesina. It says it's quite deplorable over there in that part of the country. On the editorial, the paper talks on congratulating President Paul Biya for his adversaries. That is what you can read on the editorial on Tepromi Hebdo newspaper for today. We'll move over to another political newspaper for today, and for our show for today it says Cabral Libre responses to Maurice Kamto. He says ahead of the death of certain proposition of the set political figure Maurice Kamto scandalous. That is what you can find on Info Martin for today. Cameroon charged bilateral relationship. The paper reports on developmental projects in the road sector. Get to read that paper or that story from that paper for today. We'll take you to next door. The economic newspaper Quotidien Economy talks of cooperation ties between Cameroon and the World Bank following the visits of the Vice President for the World Bank for the Central and West African sub-region, who made this working visit over there in the Star Building, where he held talks with Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Guti, and other key cabinet ministers. We'll take you to the bridge over the River Logon. It says the paper reports on the connection reads of this bridge that is still in the construction process. Moving next door to Luju of Haman Manor for this morning talks of the far north region, how former combatants of Boko Haram insurgency now leave the insurgents movement as they have been admitted into mainstream society. That's what you can find on that said paper. Let's take you to the chiefdom of Bangam. He says the message of His Majesty Fatak Zuzi Diodone. You can find more on that said paper for today. The paper of Haman Manor comes back to the build up to the qualifiers for 2026. It says Cameroon will clash with Libya in Benghazi today. Get rid of that story on that said paper. Le Messager of late Piyush Njaweh talks of the chiefdom of Bangam. He says on the throne of legitimacy. Get to read more on that said paper for today. And the showdown of Libya versus Cameroon. He says song in danger. That's a big preoccupation of that paper of Le Messager for this morning. Let's move away from Le Messager this time with Quotidien Emergence for this day. It talks of the quality of telephone services in Cameroon. He says it's quite preoccupying. That is what that paper have for us for this morning. And Femi cites a teacher killed by her husband in in Douala. This is a secondary school teacher who was beaten to death by the set recalcitrant husband of hers. Get to read that story on page 2. And we move over to the next publication, Mutation. Mutation says Yaoundé have some filling stations are dried without fuel and other hydrocarbon products. And the Minister of Land Tenure and State Properties, Andre Iyebi IEC, comforts the family of the venerated professor of philosophy, Professor Unmono Jana, as he went to his Yaoundé-based residence where he signed the condolence book. We move over to end of year festivities. It says Orange Marks offers dynamism in terms of Orange offers, and let's take you to Tadi newspaper. Tadi Info newspaper for today talks of Chang. It says the network of Parliament for Entrepreneurial Scheme headed by Honorable Roger Milingi accompanies some youth in that locality for them to be enterprising. You can find that story on that said paper for this morning. Cameroon Tribune of Marie Claire Nana celebrates the cooperation ties between Cameroon and the World Bank following the visit of the Vice President of the World Bank for Central and West African sub-region to the country. Cameroon charts, the paper says, reflecting on infrastructural development. You can find more on the pages of Cameroon Tribune newspaper for today. Municipal updates of Victor Mbamecham says at installation as Boya Town veteran President Barrister Ganji Shidi urges youth to promote unity, peace. Government introducing new taxes in 2024 finance bill. Get to read that story on that said paper. Douala Bat Road showing work on sludge treatment plan. And so with the last paper, which is municipal updates, this is where we draw the curtains of today's edition of the program. A big thanks to you all who had the time to accompany us right up to the end. With that, we are urging you to stay tuned to the company of High Television as more interesting programs are coming your way. Press Brief is back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Cameroon.